Welcome to Cooking Vibes with Michele and Lea. Welcome, Michele and Lea, to our program.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Michele, and this is...
Hi, I'm Lea. How are you guys?
Together, we are Just What the Kosher Ordered, and this is our podcast, Cooking Vibes. Today, we're going to talk to you about artisanal bread, and specifically sourdough. Artisanal bread is like a big current trend. You find it in all the markets now, but also like the specialty bakeries are doing lots of artisanal bread. So Lea and I just learned how to make sourdough. All these years we're baking.
Right. I wasn't really excited about taking a lesson because for some reason I wasn't into sourdough. But when you make it homemade, of course, like everything else, it's better than bought. So Michele and I took a quick lesson.
We had a lesson. We have a friend who's been making sourdough for years.
He's my cousin.
Lea's cousin, and it's a he, so yay to all the he bakers out there and the she bakers. But also, so sourdough is kind of unique from other dough. Like we bake a lot. We bake challah every week. We bake hundreds of challah. But it's not a yeast dough using yeast, and it doesn't use sugar. It's really three ingredients.
Right.
It's flour, water, and salt. To get your starter going, first you have to ferment the starter with flour and water, and you let it sit in the refrigerator, but it ferments and it grows, and you have to feed your starter. So sourdough, I'm going to say right off the bat, delicious, but it's a commitment. If you want to make sourdough, you need to start your sourdough starter 24 hours before you're going to make your loaf of bread.
You have to return to it.
You have to return to it every 20 minutes. You have to fold it, and you have to fold it, and then you have to rotate it.
I'm not so good on the commitment portion.
Cover it, and then you have to let it sit for 12 hours, and then you have to fold it again, and then you have to cover it and let it sit for another 12 hours.
And then you have to heat the oven for an hour.
At 500 degrees using a Dutch oven. That is key. You must use a Dutch oven when baking sourdough, and it gets really, really hot. 500 degrees. You heat the oven.
You have to be so careful.
Very hot.
So you put the dough on a piece of parchment paper, and then you lower it into the Dutch oven, and then you got to cover it.
And then you uncover it to finish the baking, and then you have to score it so that it gets something called an ear. I'm still learning some of the lingo involved with it.
I don't know the lingo
And when you cut it open, you look for like the little holes in the bread, and that's called the crumb.
Oh, that's
I don't know why it's called a crumb.
I didn't even know.
When crumbs are crummy, but these are like the little holes inside the bread, and it's called a crumb. So there's a lot of terminology, but really it does not have to be complicated. People do not have to be afraid to do it. It's just, it is a time commitment.
I was afraid to try it.
Now you've made it a few times, and what do you think?
I've made it twice, and it's been fantastic. And my family has liked it, surprisingly.
Why surprisingly?
I'm always saying, they're not going to like it, they're not going to like it. They liked it.
You don't give your family enough credit.
Thanks.
Because you don't like them to try new things. You're always you always say they're not going to like it. They should try new things.
Okay.
And they're adults.
Maybe sometime we'll talk about picky eaters.
I don't have picky eaters.
Okay,
I have picky eaters.
I do.
Yeah. Picky eaters. That's a whole nother thing, but we should definitely have a session on picky eaters.
Picky eaters.
But so nothing smells better in the house, first of all, than fresh bread coming out of the oven. And then you got to let it cool, and then you get that nice crunchy crust on the sourdough.
And it's soft on the inside. It's fabulous.
Smear it with some butter, and it's like just the best thing in the world.
So I have a quick question.
Sure. Yeah.
The ingredients, can you get those locally, or do you have to are these like some exotic types of ingredients?
Simple.
It's so
ingredients.
funny. You use all-purpose flour.
Right. Usually when we bake our challah, we use bread flour, which is high gluten flour. But when we do the sourdough, the recipe that we're following uses just regular all-purpose flour, which you can get at any of the local supermarkets in West Hempstead, and water, which you can get straight from your faucet, because we have very good and expensive water if you live in certain parts of town in West Hempstead. I live on the expensive side and pay a lot of money for my water, whereas people on the other side of town pay very little for their water. That's a whole nother discussion. Maybe David will take that up on one of his West Hempstead rants about the water in West Hempstead.
At some point, we'll definitely do an expose on the water. But, for now, we'll be very happy to follow the adventures of Michele and Lea and their sourdough baking.
And if any of our listeners out there are interested in learning how to make sourdough, Lea and I would love to teach you. Reach out through us through the westhempsteadecho.com. Drop us a line, put a comment on the podcast, and we'd love to hear from you.
Great. And this has been Cooking Vibes with Michele and Lea. Come back next week and hear more about sourdough adventures.